Greetings and salutations, Focus Up family. Welcome to the March 28, 26 installment of the Focus Up Show. We thank you for tuning in with us live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube and various other platforms, catching up with us on replay. And we ask that you click that like, that subscribe, that bell, and share to support and maintain your weekly Focus Up fix. I am Mr. Nice Guy, nice as in the word Saint spelled backwards. And today, my co-hosts are Brother Afro Agnostics, co-star of Objective Deconstruction, and star of those videos on social media, those Afro Agnostic videos. We got Student X over there, star of Mutant Politics, contributor to Objective Deconstruction. And then we got this cat over here. Sorry, I'm wrong. This cat over here. We got Mr. Floyd X, the boss man, star of Street Focus on Sundays at 6 p.m. And we don't have Brother Walk today, star of Sex Talk with Walk, for Thursday at 9 p.m. and, Street Focus. And we don't have Infamous El Poo. Infamous El Poo's schedule is kind of going crazy. We don't have First Lady J. We still waiting. We still holding out for you, First Lady J. And AB, I know you dealing with that stuff. So when you get that stuff taken care of, come back on, sister. So salute to you. So that having been said, what's going on with you, Afro Agnostics? I know it was a struggle getting your stuff up today. you know who's been working against you. You know what I'm saying?
Jews. Yeah, they've been inspiring, man. I believe it, man. Evil cabal. But man, we forgot to mention, of course. The right. Drewski, the little Drewski.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We probably should have clipped it too.
That Tyson, not Tyson, but the Tank versus
No, we're talking about that.
Okay,
we didn't put it on the list, but we even got a video for it. So
Yeah.
So,
hey, that video was
yeah.
We get to that.
Well, like I always say, if you bring it up on the show, we're gonna have to talk about it. So that's one way to make sure something gets addressed. So what's going on with you, Mr. Student X? Looks like you're muted, sir. Oh, let me see if I can unmute you.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that, these days, but everything's good, man. Just ready to rock and roll.
Mr. Floyd X, boss man.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be back in Sacramento. I went down to LA last weekend to see my auntie retirement ceremony. It was a beautiful thing. Shout out to my auntie, much love and respect. Made it down there, got to see my old school homeboys that I knew since the 7th grade. Went to kick it with them for a hot minute. Everything was cool. And then as far as Street Focus goes, it's going to be back. I'm down to one job again. No more 2 jobs for me. I'm down to one job, so I got time today. Y'all going to get some new commercials. Everything going to be updated here on the Focus Up Network. Stay tuned. I got time today.
That is what's up. All right, that having been said, let's get to the get. First thing up, rest in peace to the almighty JDL, Jerry D. Lewis. On March 23rd, 2026, the hip-hop community lost one of its iconic vital figures from the pioneering era. You're talking about a brother from the Cold Crush Brothers. Now, I don't know if you were able to clip up that video from Wild Style. Were you able to do that, Mr. Floyd X?
No, I couldn't find it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But I'm going to just tell you something about the Cold Crush Brothers. First of all, when you talk about original hip-hop, original crews, original, you know what I'm saying? It begins to start with people like the Cold Crush Brothers. You're talking about literally Run DMC. DMC told you, he said, look, we were just basically doing Cold Crush Brother routines. That whole back and forth that Run DMC for and all that stuff, that was Cold Crush. Cold Crush had the patterns, had the formations. They had, you know what I'm saying? They had all of that stuff. And one of the examples that was on display was in pretty much undisputedly the most authentic hip-hop movie of all time, Wild Style.
Oh.
There's a segment on there where they were sitting there battling on the schoolyard grounds, you know what I'm saying? And, JDL, the almighty JDL, kicked his verse as well. So, again, that's just telling you, those are the very origins, the beginnings of all of this stuff. So, we lost a pioneer, and salute to that brother's legacy. And if you have not seen Wild Style, check it out, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing dated about the origins and the actuality of how this all started in the beginnings. You want to see authentic hip hop? Go check out Wild Style.
Real quick, I think I got the clip. Let me know if this is the right part or the right section. Is this it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, which one is it?
You know, I eat your ass.
Go ahead, just play it. Just play it.
Take Cold Crush. You know the game is legit, and when we get on the court, I'm gonna stick your shit. The W. Whip. And I'm here to say that I can rock your world like the Dr. J. Cold Crush. Tone, known to be ill, but everybody know I could deal with the pill. I'm the thief. Gotta rock on this here court. I've been 9 years old playing this here sport. Cold Crush. AD. Highest degree, I got a better jump shot than Rick Barry. Well, I'm the M. Like all the pretty girls, I serve your monkey ass like Earl.
He was earlier. Yeah, he was at the beginning.
Oh, he was at the beginning?
Yeah, he was at the beginning of it. Yeah, but still.
Oh, good.
So not him. So it'll be after like go ahead.
To the devil to play like me. Well, I'm the R, Ruby D. And you got a lot of nerve when you play against me. You know you're gonna get served. Cold Crush, JDL, the Lords, and Ruby D, my man. Your shit is on the boards. You're all careful. You're all careful.
That's the OG. So you know, yeah. So you know what I'm saying. So yeah. So you talking about again? This is the origins. You know, hip hop has become such a international, global phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? It's bigger than the music, it's culture, it's everything. But these were the very beginnings. You talking about, you know, in the Bronx and all of this stuff. So salute to the Cold Crush Brothers. And if you want to get the man from the Cold Crush Brothers, you talking about Grandmaster Caz. You know what I'm saying? Big Daddy Kane basically said, "Look, I basically got my style and stuff from Caz. Caz was the one that was doing the things that I was doing before I was doing them. So you talking about the Mount Rushmore of real of hip hop. You know, he's got to be on it. And if you want to check him out, you can go check him out on Rock the Bells Radio on satellite on what's it called? What's the satellite company? I forgot. But the bottom line is you go check out Rock the Bells Radio. Yes, serious. Go ahead.
I was just going to add really quick. I think that line from Big Bag Hank on Rappers Delight Sugar Hill Gang was a bar for bar copy from
that whole verse.
The whole verse. Yeah.
It's like he didn't even tailor it to him. He said, "Oh, let me borrow this rhyme." And he does the rhyme, and literally he's like the C, the A, the S. He Casanova. He's literally spelling out his name. So yeah, so you talking about enshrined in the origins of it. That's what's up. So salute to the Cold Crush Brothers. A salute to the memory of JDL. You know what I'm saying? And just that's what's up. So that having been said, what do we have up next?
J. Cole versus Camron. Remember?
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that this played out. We tuned back. There was a Focus Up episode. I see Walk ain't here today, man, and he needed to be here to face all the stuff that we needed to talk about. But he was talking all that truck. We did a whole segment on your word is your bond, and I kept saying, look, this is what Camron's take on it. I'm not knocking on Camron. I love Camron. I got mad respect for Camron. But I said, but that's still subject to Camron's perspective of how it went down. Until we hear J. Cole explain his side of it, we just don't have it. We can't just go jumping off a cliff about it. And now that he's actually came on and they did their interview, and you find out, he goes, look, that was never our deal. That was never my understanding. I'm like, look, you came on it. I wanted your particulars. Like, hey, let me reimburse you. So he was doing all of this stuff to get that taken care of. And even though they didn't necessarily finish it there, he was still trying to get it taken care of after the fact. But he was like, look, I really was trying to do your interview. It was just taking me for long to get this album out. So
let me make my statement on the nice guy. Excuse me. Now I came hard at J. Cole because I really like J. Cole as a rapper. I think he's number two. Again, number two. But when he did that to Camron, I was pissed off. How you gonna do that to that man? You're supposed to be some upstanding rapper, standing on business, all that, and here you are avoiding or dodging your responsibility and not making your word bond. I said that's some sucker shit. That was my take. So I'm glad that he came back and did it. Let me play the clip for you real quick of the how they when they got back together. Let me pull this clip up real quick here. Then we're going to speak on it. Share screen. J. Cole. Yeah, right there. All right, here we go.
can't be a stylist neither. When she's fixing somebody's collar, I don't know what may happen next time she. What's up, man?
I'm just saying, like, a lawsuit, bro. Lawyers?
You know, it wasn't like that.
I'm just saying, bro. You got niggas like.
Come here, give me a hug, man.
Right,
That's cool. That's cool. That was it. That was cool, man. I appreciated that. That was
For the record, was J. Cole foul?
No. He made good on his word. He made good on his word. Much respect to that.
Wait. Not for just showing up. I'm talking about the characterization of what the actual deal was.
But what you mean? As far as
he said that I didn't agree to do the interview for compensation for this whatever. I'm trying to pay you compensation for your coming on my song. That, you know, in that video, like Camron goes, you know, I'm from the street. This is how I viewed it, but I see that, you know, that wasn't your understanding of what the deal was. Don't run away from this. Now, I understand what you're dealing with allergies. So, you know, Mr. Foot X. Yeah. He's a professional.
But I mean, it was good. What's y'all take on it, Student Next?
Running. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't know a lot about it. I mean, they are not that relevant to me, but I like to see the unit. I like to see the unity of the brothers on their podcast. I like to see that.
Here we go. Here we go. Come on in.
We done called his name out.
I know he got a take. What's your take, Mr. Walt? What up? Can you hear us?
Oh, so we were sitting there talking about the whole J. Cole, Camron situation.
I heard that shit.
So now what? What you got to say?
Sorry. Hold on, real fast.
Make it up. Think of a Garuga story. Go ahead.
No, he did renege. And he apologized. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He really didn't. We had to hear both sides of the story. We heard the story from Camron. That's why Camron took his ass to court. What you think Camron did that foul?
Camron you didn't look at the interview. Camron literally said in the interview, you know, you didn't have that understanding that this was supposed to be a compensation for that. He literally says, you know, because you kept trying to pay me, you were trying to pay me after the fact. So the bottom line is they never had an arrangement that this was connected to the bar. That's why you guys were talking about. That's literally what it was, saying that was the compensation. He made a deal and he broke the deal.
Watch me get you.
I'm waiting for it.
Watch me get you. That's why J. Cole was like, I was trying to get back to you, but I had this going on. Why did J. Cole say that? Because J. Cole knows that he said I was just going to, because he said I'm going to do it. Because he said I'm going to do you. He said I'm going to do your interview. That's all he said. He's like, that's me doing the interview just because I want to do an interview. You said that J. Cole did not understand that it was a deal this for that. And he damn well he did know it was this.
You didn't watch the interviews. Just tell me you didn't watch the interview. I will clip the interview for you. I'll put the comment in the comments. I'm gonna clip the interview where he literally.
If you try to be a great explainer,
he explained it himself.
All right, everybody return. Let's return back to your corners, fellas. Let's return back to your corners.
I like that bell. You just make it louder.
Make it louder. All right. Yeah. Let's return back to your corners. Let me see.
Light skin niggas are cool again. Good luck. Thanks, J. Cole. he made do.
Let's return. Oh, we go. That better. Yeah. All right, look. All right. So on the J. Cole and Camron, I'm glad that they made up. They back cool again, and the lawsuit is out the window. Much respect. I love to see love between brothers when they showing much mutual respect for each other. Because I think Cam is a OG or somebody who made his mark in the game. Camron or J. Cole is the one that's making his mark today. So salute to them brothers. Ready to move on or?
Well, I think just real quick, you guys missed a bigger point, which is J. Cole was trying to show Drake and K-Dot how it's supposed to be done.
Oh, where's the horn? God damn. The horn. Hold on. That's a horn for that. I know we probably ain't gonna touch on it, but we should have brought up Jay-Z talking about battle. We ain't. I don't think we prepared for that conversation. But
let me get back to what I was doing.
All right, fool. You want a
piece of the Coon Wars? You don't want a piece of the Coon Wars?
You don't want to do the Coon Wars?
Oh, no.
Battle of the Coons?
The Battle of the Network Coon.
All right, well. All right, let's jump to it, nice guy.
Reading is fundamental. But anyway, so let's talk about this. I'm really not cool with, calling black people coons and stuff like that. But, a person is what they is. When it comes to Stephen A. Smith, this is a dude that at least has like value in his lane. Like, I think he's really good at the sports stuff. I'm a big fan of his takes, his energy, all that stuff. In his lane, he's good and great. The second his toe steps into some politics, particularly black politics, it's going to be a violation like 95% of the time. But this other guy, Whitlock, throw his whole ass away. This dude literally contributes nothing. He's literally, his whole existence is to put a black face on white criticism of black people. That's it. That's all he is. They basically get a black-faced dude to say some things that some white people want to say to black people, and they're ridiculous points. Like, white people will have some legitimate criticism things to say, and he's not making them. I mean, he's an absolute total clown. Go ahead.
Let me lay the premise of what's going on here. First, let me say this. I agree with you, nice guy. I don't like calling black men or black people a coon. But if you a coon, I would gladly call you a coon. Mr. Stephen A. Smith and Mr. Jason Whitlock, both of you in my books are coons because y'all straddle the fence and y'all are nice to white people and rude to black people. Y'all just let loose the way you go off on Jasmine Crockett, Mr. Coon Smith, the way you go off on other people, Mr. Jason Shitlock. So here's the premise. Let me get back to it. Okay. So Jason Whitlock did an interview on Cam Newton's 4th and 1 podcast show. And you know that Cam Newton is a co-host on ESPN with Stephen Smith. So he did it. He asked him about the beef. What's the beef between you and Stephen Smith? And he said that Stephen Smith is a fraud. He talked about he was playing basketball in his HBCU and all this stuff. Now, I agree. I don't call him a fraud, but when Stephen A. tells that story that he went to tryouts or he had a workout and he made 17 3-pointers in a row. This is the story he tells. I made 17 3-pointers in a row, and I was never able to do it again. I think that's the part that he's saying that he's a fraud. So when he went on that show, he talked trash about Stephen A. Smith, and then Stephen A. Smith came back, and he got his own podcast, and he just clowned him. I think Stephen A. won the battle, but he just clowned him, and they're having a literal coon war.
Afro-agnostics, you're the person who created this. You created our meme. So I know you got something to say about this.
Yeah, that was just in response to what you were saying. And I didn't know anything about it. I got caught up just a little bit. They're both, in my opinion, coons. The word comes from the minstrel shows where white people would do blackface and become coons and do coon songs. And in a lot of ways, they kind of do that. Whitlock reminds me of Candace Owens or Thomas Sowell. I mean, just selectively goes after black people all the time. I don't, and Stephen A. is more or less the same to a less degree. He definitely Stephen A. has more blackness than Whitlock, but they're both just like the title. It's a coonery show, just sit back and eat some popcorn.
You got anything to say about this student next?
Man, of course I do. You already know this. So let me, as always, man, I love my brother, Afro, but let's go back to this whole coon title. I don't use it very often because, I mean, first of all, we're talking about not only a serious charge, but like an insulting charge. We're talking about racial betrayal. So when he was talking about he being Afro, the minstrel shows, I mean, first of all, the goal of the minstrel shows was, to make Black people look ridiculous and intellectually inferior, unfit for freedom or citizenship, and desperate for white validation. These men aren't fitting into that at all. And then when you look at, the various, okay, well, what is, can we break coonery into, sub roles? You got the performative buffoonery, where people are acting out negative stereotypes for the entertainment and profit of a non-Black audience. Now Stephen A. and Jason Whitlock, they don't have just exclusively non-white audiences. You know what I mean? So right off the bat, I think we need to throw it out of there, throw that out. A Token or Pick Me. These guys are on independent platforms that they created and build it. Again, as a diverse audience. You know what I mean? So again, I don't see that as being the case. And then internalized racism, both these men are proud to be Black. They represent different types of Blackness, but yet proud. Candace, she doesn't go out her way just to talk about Black people. Now there's been some things she said that offended Black people, and she has to, own that, And then going to Stephen A's, point, where he just criticized Black people. Hell, he deals in sports, and he primarily talks about the NFL and NBA. My God, what I'm saying? He's going to talk about some Black people, from time to time, So, I think, look, we could disagree with these men for wherever their points are, But when we start getting to this, coonery and all this, man, it's a slippery slope and one that, I don't feel comfortable in playing.
I hear your point.
Wait a second. Your first points that you made about what they do literally was like a point-for-point description of Whitlock. What were you about to say, Mr. Floyd?
I think Willie D said it best. He say a coon is someone who works to the benefit of white people at the detriment of Black people. And to my opinion, that's what they both do. Mr. Stephen A. Smith is real tiptoe around white people situations. He never criticizes. And you got when that dude of the MAA, the owner of the MAA, got in trouble, he was tiptoeing around that shit. But on some Diddy shit and some other Black people, he'll jump in and just excoriate them. Just throw words at them. Don't care. No holds barred when it comes to Black folks. But on white folks, he tiptoe around. When that the owner of the Dallas Cowboy had that picture out, I don't believe he's a racist. He was just standing there. He tiptoes. He is, in my mind, he's a coon. Jason,
let me give a counter. So Jerry Jones, you never heard him, a lament on Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, a very powerful man.
What did he say to him?
What he says? He criticizes them all the time.
Wait. Your student X is 100% right. He's probably the number one clowner of the Cowboys. But is he clowning them for being racist, or is he clowning them for being the Cowboys? I'm asking you, student X.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's talking about wherever the topic is. Stephen A. He's talks about race. He's talking about races. He talks about sports. That's what he does. He does sports.
That's good. That's good.
He's tiptoeing into politics.
He has been.
And nobody want to see him run for nothing.
Just to clarify something for the record, just for the historical record, people don't know Uncle Tom was a positive hero in the book Uncle Tom Cabin by Harvard. But he was an Uncle Tom. And Black people took it and made it a disparaging term because that nigga was an Uncle Tom, just as Black people use the term. Minstrel, if you read the book, people, all this stuff that with the Harvard Institute, what's his name? Read the book. He was an Uncle Tom. The characters he's talking about is Sambo. So I would like to call him a Sambo, but we as Black people, we take terms. We take nigga, we take coon, and reimagine it and reuse it in the way that fits us. Black people, you couldn't have slavery. You can't have Jim Crow. You can't have what we have today without some Uncle Toms, some Sambos, some coons. It goes on. These are people who are collaborating with the enemy on several levels. But and then Stephen A. Smith, he did sports up until 2020. then he transitioned into politics, and his politics are very observably biased towards Black people. His positions, his takes are biased towards Black people, and it's very clear and evident to most Black people.
They're conservative. I mean, he is more conservative versus liberal, but I wouldn't say that. He's not going to be running as a right-wing conservative. He'll be running as a Democrat. And that's how he entered into politics, is because the Democrat field is so weak that they were saying that, man, hell, Stephen A could probably win, one of these posts. And then
no Democrats would get behind Stephen A.
And he probably feels that he did.
So may I ask this really quick? Is the civil rights and Black Power movement conservative movements?
Not at all.
Absolutely not. Okay, that's all.
Great point. Great freaking point. So that having been said,
let me fire back with another question. Since we were talking about great points and all, was the original Black Power movement, civil rights movement, made up of primarily mostly conservative men and women?
Were they made up? No, they had
mostly conservative men and women.
No, they had
the original early civil rights movement.
Oh, they were okay. So let's take, for instance, that they were started by conservative men only, as you put it. Somehow the politics
men and women, just people in general.
Go ahead.
The politics in their mission statements, in their programs, was all left. So how was that?
I mean, I just made a point that primarily it was conservative Black men and women who were the foundation and background of that movement.
You're throwing
and
that
they were
word
young
out.
people too.
If we unpack that, now you're throwing that word out. But if we were
what word?
Conservative.
Conservative.
Conservative minded.
But
the
fact that they were rebelling and resisting. Conservative. Well, put it
with left wing politics. That doesn't make sense.
Hey,
because what's happening? Shout out to the founding father of Focus Up, JC, what's up? But co-founding father. But the bottom line is, when we talk about conservatives fundamentally keeping status quo as is. When you're basically having some type of revolution of change, this is naturally going in a different direction. You know what I'm saying? So that's how. So you're sitting there talking about these people were conservatives, but their actions were absolutely not conservative. Their actions were revolutionary. The conservatives were against it. These were the people that are complaining about those uppity Black people that they're trying to drink from their fountains or trying to sit at their counters. You know what I'm saying? So that was a big pushback. So you talking about the liberal.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying that primarily.
No, we're just explaining
individuals and people, they had conservative values, and yet that led them to be revolutionary, and the time called for that, and they stepped up, and we lay on that foundation today. Now, that's it. That's all. I'm not, trying to go.
Some people would argue the conservative values that they had were basically was basically what their slave masters gave them and taught them, that kept them in that state until they broke free from it. So I guess it's a function of how you see it. But when we talk about the politics of the left and the right, we understand that the civil rights, all of this stuff, this was left activity by right and left activity, described today.
And to just give a quick example that NAACP was against all of the mass protests. And the NAACP was made over time to appreciate and get involved, but they were against mass protests. They were, the legal route, litigation, lawyers, and stuff like that. So that was even to the left of what they were demanding. So the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement were far left politics, the farthest left of the 20th century of any demographic, any politics on the political spectrum in the United States. So I don't understand how conservative people produce that.
I think we drifting off now. We're talking on the Coon Wars. We all gave our opinion. We ready to move forward or what?
It's kind of all related. It's all related. So we're just explaining.
Forward ever, backwards never.
And you know what? I feel like before we go into the commercial, we can tie this whole situation to the UN condemning slavery. So I don't remember how many. It was like 112 nations or something like that. I know that it was everybody except for 3. It was the United States, it was Israel, and it was Argentina. I don't quite know the history behind Argentina, why they were the ones that pushed back. Maybe I know that you two brothers are the people with a lot of information, but it definitely wasn't a good look.
They just sucking up to America. That's all. They just sucking up to America.
The president's a big Trump fan. And vice versa.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, gotcha.
Argentina has a history too. They committed genocide against the black population in Argentina, and also they collaborated with the U.S. government to kill Ernesto Che Guevara, who was the second-hand man in the Cuban Revolution. So,
and arguably where Hitler retired to after they said he was dead as well.
Yeah, Nazis retired.
I'm a big soccer fan. Brazil and Argentina has a big history, of interaction, and it makes sense being that Brazil is what it is, and vice versa. So
let me pose a question. Let me challenge them condemning slavery. What difference does it make?
Well, it can affect. Okay, go ahead. It can affect. Okay, I'm sorry. It can affect the appropriations of resources in the UN through the General Assembly. So just real quick, a lot of people are against the UN, but the United States created the UN to be like an imperialist power along with the Western powers, France, who all at the time had colonies. This is before Ghana existed. It was the Gold Coast under British. There was no Nigeria, no India. Long story short, anti-colonial movements developed in Africa and Asia, and they started after they won independence. They joined the UN, which changed the demographics. So it became more people of color. And that's when you started having progressive legislation put out in the UN. But just a quick record, really quick, like the United States is against the Convention on Genocide as a Crime. They watered it down in the beginning, the draft that was started in Nuremberg after World War II. They're against the Children's Rights Act. They are against the Nuclear Disarmament Act. So this is a part of. I was supposed to go to South Africa, Durban, in 2001 for the World Conference Against Racism. Guess who walked out? United States and Israel, because they wanted to again get slavery and colonialism as a crime against humanity. So there's a long history of them doing that.
Okay.
And my take on it is just that it's because it's tied to reparations. That's what makes it a little bit kind of a messy, because it's just so, I guess that's such a big financial task to take on. But it's as it's presented, they're talking about acknowledging that it was the greatest act, most horrific act, I guess of history or something like that. That was with the real context. And my thing is like, you could at least acknowledge like, yes, this was the greatest historical tragedy. And again, as far as reparations are not just necessarily cutting you a check. Reparations are happening in all type of things. One form of reparations was DEI. Reparations was the civil rights movement. I'm saying that there's all type of reparations to be had. And at the end of the day, the United States should be completely accepting and working with the concept of reparations, a practical form of reparations, as far as going forward, as far as teaching, as far as academics, there's all type of things you can do. It's not just a function of running up the deficit with cutting a whole bunch of checks, because that's not really going to solve the problem. Until you really address the problem, then you're not really going to, really repairing, because that's what it is. So again, you can acknowledge it. Look, this was the most horrific thing that we have in modern history, that happened. We should acknowledge that it happened and own up to it and say that, we need to work towards, basically repairing the damage from this. That's all you really have to do is to take that position. But, they won't even do that. They just, stick their head in the sand. But what you got to say about the student next?
You all missed it. You missed the whole point of the whole exercise. And it's not surprising because, let me put it this way. The world is trying to wake you up, black men and women. They just got finished showing you the whole world, it understands your plight, understands where you're at in time and history. Everyone knows that this war this is going to broaden and expand. And so people are trying to, I believe, inspire us to begin efforts here inside of America. Honestly, that's what I believe is really going on here. I'm saying very carefully because these are significant times that are going on right now.
Hold it January 6th. Inspire us to hold it January 6th or do what?
To come out of her. I'll put it like that. To come out of her, you know what I mean? Now how you interpret that, there's different ways and different strategies. Of course, in the nation, its strategy ultimately was, to unify the masses of not only our people, but brown-skinned people in general, and then declaring ourselves a nation within a nation and ultimately separating. You know what I mean? That was the ultimate goal of where the nation was promoting. Now my brother Afro would tell you that, Black people, we have all this political unity, but it's just simply is not true. I mean, it's true if you want to look at it from the point that, most of you vote Democrat. That's true. You know what I mean? But in terms of making any type of real demand and having some type of really substantial threat that would impact power, there's no leverage that exists there. You know what I mean? But this vote made it loud and clear that, you're serving in their military, but look at you, you might as well be like on what's that show, Planet of the Apes, where they had the big, strong gorilla and they had ape on his back, but he was helping the humans, against the other monkeys, I'm telling you, this is trying to be a wake up call, trying to wake people up to understand, friend from foe, and then there's a separation, the wheat and the tare, there's going to be the choice that you have to make. Now, what that separation looks like and the strategies as they're being deployed, then that's where, I think that people is going to have to be wise, and how that looks, but come out of her.
All right.
This is like violence to basically the struggles that we've been participating in the whole time. I mean, you talk about the civil rights movement. I mean, honestly, when you look at where we started out to where we are today, and we still got a long ways to go, but to maybe imply that we are not basically fighting and holding white people, accountable for the things that they've done. Pretty much most of every big change that's happened in this country has been on the backs of our efforts. You know what I'm saying? So when you're talking about fighting to make a change, and this thing is a big, powerful machine. The worst thing you could possibly do is just completely leave it and let white people with no type of accountability to do whatever they want with it. That would be the most dangerous thing that you could do with it. I understand that. I definitely would love.
Who's promoting that?
What'd you say?
Who's promoting that?
I mean, if you're talking about leaving the nation, if you're talking about carving out, I'm just saying that the bottom line is we've changed the nation. We've made it different.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point. That's not what the nation's position is, and that's definitely not what my position is. When we're saying come out of her,
what nations? You said nations. I just want to know what you're talking about. I'm not, brother. I just want to know. You made a comment. You said the nation. I just want to know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you're coming out of her, then that means that, there's different points of it. Obviously, we're here, so that's a system within the system. But if you take, for example, like the Hispanic community, like Latinos, they have a common bond in terms of language, culture, food, and so a lot of the undocumented individuals here in this country, they don't even have to interact with this country's systems in order to eat, in order to provide for their families and whatnot. And the ones that do, then they take those resources and they act like it's a still away program and they reinvest it back into their networks. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's different strategies and focuses, but, like I said, first it has to be true collective political strategic unity, for there to be really any significant progress and change. But it's clear, is that, I believe that damn near all of us are coons. You know what I mean? Because we're taking advantage of being here and with this, living the life of the country, we're comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So we want to start calling other people regular coonery. you got the top level coons and you got some bottom level coons, you know what I mean? But we're not involved in the disruption, you know what I mean? And then we're not, you know, strategically coming out of this. Many of us still participate in the holidays. Many of us still keep the last names of our enemies. Many of us still, you know, adopt the customs, you know, that are here. So we do a true evaluation. You know what I mean? You know, we use that word coon a little too lightly, I think. You know what I mean? You know, we got to look in.
We all are coons.
But you said, but your people act like we've been here the whole time. So we have this culture. But Afro-agnostic, you've been silent. Please, what do you have to say to this?
The only thing that can wake people up is a movement. So I think like Student X, his approach, because really he's talking about is national liberation, nationalism, national liberation movements. But it's kind of divorced from the reality of national liberations movements, you know, throughout the world, in Africa and Asia, Latin America, and so forth. So the closest thing that we've come to that is not as far from the Nation of Islam. This Nation of Islam ain't gonna build shit on the national level because it's a religious nationalist movement and it don't work like that here.
That's a big insult.
No, I'm just saying they're not going to build a nation. There's no nation of Islam. There's nations of people, persons, groups, pan-ethnic groups. There's no nation of a religion.
So you don't believe that they could build a nation?
Islam's not promoting a religious state.
No, they're not going to build a nation of. They're talking about black people. They use it
nation within a nation.
I come from the New African Independence movement. Of course, I believe in nationalism and us having a separate national identity. That's a fact. Is very well developed, more than any other group here in the United States. The Black Power movement was a black nationalist movement for national liberation. You have to build a movement like that that's inclusive of black people, regardless of religion. Religion goes in the closet, don't have anything to do with it, anything to do with your oppression whatsoever. And then he spoke something about, it was kind of saying that black people have some special deficiency that other groups don't have, or they have some special cultural, political advantage. That's just simply not true. That is an example of self-hate, and internalized racism. But anyway, we want to build a movement. That's the reality. That's how you liberate people.
All right, let's jump to our commercial. Let's jump to commercial. La Brea Trucking for all of your trucking needs. East Coast to West Coast, West Coast to East Coast, North to South, South to North. Y'all saw no. And I realized I got to make the phone number bigger because when I wasn't on the show and I was looking at my phone, you could barely see the phone number. So I'm going to fix that. We're going to have a nice big number so you could call the brother La Brea Trucking for all of your trucking needs. So next week, y'all had a big number. Then y'all can finally start calling them after all these years. Thank y'all.
Screenshot, blow it up.
Hey, what you do?
I'm not trying to unmute, doing an unmute button. That's gobealive.org. Go get you some of that black honey. And if you want it in person, go to the Petty Vice at at Venice, or to the Afro City Marketplace at the Crenshaw Mall. Salute, Sister Nidra. Black honey.
Focus Up Network. Salute. Membership. Salute. Appreciate you.
Hey, real quick, I just want to shout out Why I Hate Politics. That's a YouTube show, and the brother said, "Focus up." No coercion on me. I don't know the brother or nothing. He just used the term "focus up," so I believe he watches the show.
You need to tap in. You need to focus up.
See?
That's what's up.
Focus up. You need to tap in. Focus up. That's it. All right, let's get to it. Nice guy.
All right, so then let me pull up my notes. All right, so now let's talk about the SAVE Act. Actually, let's talk about the government shutdown. So right now, as the government shutdown is basically pertaining to the TSA, and it's dealing with I guess the ICE, and so the bottom line is how it's really impacting is with the airports. With the airports are somewhat of a nightmare in the places where they don't have private people involved. I understand. I think there's like 14 major airports or cities, whatever, that basically that they supply their own people, so they're not experiencing like the big long lines and all the problems and stuff like that. But for the most part, most of the nation is, and these people haven't been paid for like 2 weeks, coming up on another paycheck. And the Democrats are like, look, we agree, let's just pay them. But the Republicans are like, we want this other thing, so this is kind of like a stalemate. That's a throwback to the other situation when the Democrats were like, look, we don't want people to be deprived of these healthcare subsidies and stuff like that. And they dug it out for a while and ultimately caved in just because they're like, look, real people are having harm. So now the Democrats are in the situation where real people having harm. Let's just fix that problem. Let's not worry about your policies. You basically want to fund this whole SAVE Act thing. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but the bottom line is, the Republicans actually caved in, at least in the Senate. House is like, nah. So we'll see how it plays out. But that's kind of what's going on right now. What you got to say about this, boss man?
All right, look, this SAVE Act thing is, well, we're talking about the government shutdown. Listen, if you watch Fox News, they're going to lie to you. They're going to lie to you and say it's the Democrats' fault. The shutdown, the TSA workers are not getting paid because the Democrats are holding out. That's the lie they're going to tell to you. When all they need to do is go to Donald Trump and ask Donald Trump, why the TSA shut down? And let me pull up the video. I know I don't even see it here, but Trump says it. I don't have the video.
When you talk,
One.
we should probably
right now.
I'm muted. I see I'm muted. He was standing outside of a plane, Air Force One, and they asked him. He said, I told my people, do not sign that bill unless they put the SAVE Act in it. He said he's talking about the Republicans. Do not sign no bill releasing the money to the TSA until they put that SAVE Act, because he want that SAVE Act to save his Republican ass. So I'm gonna stop right there so y'all can get y'all points in. Student X.
Student X, I'm gonna go with you first.
I think you're muted, brother.
You're muted.
Yeah, the videos mute you.
Okay. So it sounds like we're kind of like mixing in a couple of topics, so that's perfect. So we get, for the sake of time, is that in regards to the SAVE Act, then and its impact on the what we're doing, this government shutdown. I think that the SAVE Act is rushed. There's a lot of points I agree with it, but there's definitely with it being rushed, it's going to cut out some important facts. It's gonna impact third party voting. There's some things I'm not comfortable with inside of that language, so I'm not supporting the SAVE Act. In regards to this government shutdown, is that it's really at this stage of the game, I'm less worried about the government shutdown as I'm worried about the country shutting down. Is that right now we've had, we're in the definition to where officially now we're in a recession officially. And then what I believe is going to happen is we're going to a greater recession, or a greater depression, at the end of the day, and it's yeah, no doubt about it. In fact, winter is coming. As my brother Kevin Samuels would say, and then that's what you see that's there inside of my deal here. And I even have a little picture to kind of illustrate that point, if I may. Are you guys able to share that picture?
Right here. Oh,
yeah, So winter is coming, so in terms of the manosphere, which might address later, this is going to impact, that, so we'll get into that later, but, that's all I'll say on this subject for now.
I think I don't know how to take it off.
Africa.
Damn.
Oh,
if you got.
Afro agnostics. Go ahead. So you can talk about. You want to?
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, I think
go ahead. You want
to? I think it's a little delayed. That's why we be pausing like that. But I think that this is all about the midterms, and that if the SAFE Act is allowed to pass, many more bad times, worse recessions will come by with this administration that's causing the recession. So it's very important to just kind of realize what he's doing and put pressure on your local congressman or whatever means that folks can do through media, like what we're doing now, to not. Trump made it clear he's not making a deal unless the SAFE Act is passed, and the SAFE Act is voter suppression, straight up and down. There's no, you can say it's not,
absolutely,
man. Just like Jim Crow South, the literacy laws, the extra bureaucratic and financial layers that you're adding to something, that's going to be a blockade for certain people, and and that's going to skew in a way to give them an edge. So that's what they're trying to do, and can't allow that to happen because can't happen.
It's bigger than that, though, brother. But sorry, brother.
I got the point. Look, this is it's literally called the Save America Act. When I look it up, they had some bill in 2014 called the Save Act. So it's the Save America Act.
Correct.
Yeah, and it says makes it harder for everyone to vote. And the reason it makes it harder is because it requires every American to provide documentation. I can't see that. Provide documentation. You got
I can read it if you need to. Yeah. So to provide documentary proof of citizenship, such as a passport, birth certificate, or citizenship certificate to register or re-register to vote. Functionally eliminate online and mail-in voter registration, which he just voted by mail, and other voter registration efforts by requiring people to produce citizenship documents in person to an election official. Only 6% of voters currently register in person at an election office. So put election officials at unnecessary legal risk for trying to enact cumbersome requirements in their state or locality, essentially create a new poll tax for voters who would need to purchase additional documentation. Look, a lot of people are trying to make this like an issue of, what's the problem with producing ID? If all you had to do was produce ID, whether it's a driver's license or ID, that's nothing. Most people are like, whatever, that's not the problem. There, in certain cases, you're going to have to produce a birth certificate, a passport. These things are not very easy to get. And just creating that hoop is going to basically effectively take people out of the population. And the thing about it is you're trying to fix a problem that's 99.9% accurate. You know what I'm saying? You're literally trying to fix a problem statistically by all these hoops and hassles. And ironically, if he were to even accomplish this, it wouldn't necessarily do what he's thinking to do, because this is going to affect, he's got a lot of poor constituents as well. You know what I'm saying? This is not necessarily, going to play out like he wants. However it is.
But they're going to have a strategy to reinforce it in certain areas and less enforcement.
Got you. So, and that's the game, and that's the gaming. That's the gaming about it.
And so again, all of this is based on a debunked 2020 stolen election conspiracy theory.
Yeah. And listen, the point on one of the points is, if your license, your driver's license, don't have your current address, you can't vote, is what they want to push. You got to have your current address. Now, I just moved this year, and my license is to hold my old address. That would mean I would not be able to vote. And it'll be like, okay, am I going to go to the DMV, fill out the paperwork, make the necessary changes, wait for my license to come so I can vote? A lot of people are going to be like, man, F all that. I'm going to keep this because I paid my $35 already for this license. I'm going to hold on to this for the next 5 years until it's due again. And it's like he's making it harder. Also the mail-in ballot. I don't think that's on this one, but that's part of what he wants to do. Get rid of the mail-in ballot when he just did a mail-in. He did a mail-in and he lost. He lost that lady, the sister, or white lady won. The Democrat lady won. So Trump does mail-in ballot himself. He mails in ballots to vote. How he gonna get rid of it? I'm gonna stop.
You guys are falling for it, brother. Y'all are falling for it, brother. And it don't seem like y'all have learned from this man yet. What this is all about is a distraction. It's a distraction. The reason why I call it a distraction is because he's gonna do this anyway. You know, it does, all this other stuff doesn't matter. You are not putting enough significance on what the hell is going on in Iran. This is why Iran is at the back of the show instead of the front of the show. And what's going on is that he intends, and this administration intends, to invoke the Emergency War Powers Act, you know, where he's going to declare this a major emergency of war, and he will be extending power. Is going to go to the Supreme Court, and guess who the Supreme Court favors? You don't understand what's going on. You know, this is to take your eyes off the prize. The biggest problem that impacts not only Black people, but the masses of people around the whole world is the Iran issue. That is number one. That's what's going on. You know, so we can talk about this right here. You know, but real quick, and this is my last point, and I answer your question, is that Afro brought up the midterms. He's right yet wrong. It is about the midterms, but right now the reason why it's about the midterms is in the midterms, word to be held today, Trump and Republicans lose across the board. You know, and the reason why they lose across the board is because what he's doing is unpopular. He's lost so much popular support from his own base. They lose across the board. And so this is an issue that, you know, they're hoping kind of swings him back, because if he doesn't win, you know, and they don't get enough support during the midterms, then he is going to be, you know, more than likely, you know, going to be impeached, and then maybe thrown in jail. Go ahead.
I need clarity from you. What is the distraction? Is the war the distraction, or is the this Save America Act a distraction? Because we got a lot going on, and I'm tripping how the news cannot keep up with everything that's happening. It's too much going on, and the reason the Iran war is at the back, in my assessment, is because I'm watching it every day. Everybody know what's going on with what's the Iran war. I mean, we gonna talk about it on the show because it's important, but I mean, it's a distraction on all sides. And
I disagree with you. If everybody knew what the hell is going on with the Iran war, then there would be a different response from the masses of citizens. Because if you understood what was going on with the Iran war is going back into nuclear war, which is arguably not even the worst of, you know, the disasters and catastrophes these people are doing, but how much that is on the table. But then even we just go more short-sighted and look at the fact that, you know, if you're just playing this out game theory wise, like Professor Jiang, you know, is known to do, is that right now, you know, you're looking at, you know, headwinds in terms of a national draft being instituted. That alone, because there's not enough military, not enough troops to even support this war, and then the people voluntarily, they're not with this, and they're not even trying to sign up. The recruiting in the military is at an all-time low, you know. And right now, Israel is the primary number one person that's starting this. They don't have troops. They're not committing troops to that war at all. They're busy with Hezbollah and the Gaza.
Student X, the majority of Americans, in my opinion, do not support this war based on the numbers of what I'm seeing.
That is true.
Okay, so we don't. The majority of Americans don't support this war, but a large portion of America supports Donald Trump, right?
No, not now. Not now.
What you mean not now? Because his polls number are lower. So do we still have the numbers to? If he was to, let's say, if you said the midterms happen right now.
Midterm elections, Republicans lose big.
Okay, I agree with that part. But the way I'm looking at it is that he still has large support in the sense of people who think he's better for America than anything else, better than any Democrat can ever be, I guess you would say.
Well, I can jump in. I'm going to jump in really quick because I just noticed like a little pattern. When we have these discussions, I see my man Student X kind of getting on like, you haven't learned your lesson, but I have. You still don't get it, but I do. So it's like this special revelation that he has that no one else has, which is typical of conspiratorial type of thinking. But I would say really quick that the SAFE Act is one strategy. Martial law, they were trying to explore that in LA and then later in Minnesota. That was another strategy. The war can be another strategy to increase unitary executive power, and that's spelled out clearly in Project 2025 is to have that branch of government, the president, be more powerful, have more strength than the judicial and the Congress. But they can't carry out these plans successfully if they don't win. You know, in a war, you got strategies and you got tactics. One of the tactics that they're using is the SAFE Act, so they can still stay in power, because Trump has to get rid of still a lot of, like, to what you said, Student X, I agree. He has to get rid of a lot of the establishment Republicans that are still there. And he has to make sure that the folks that are there, the Republicans, are MAGA and loyal to him. So he has his work cut out for him.
So just real quick to just what Afro's
You're saying
point.
that's the distraction.
No, I mean they're all just strategies and tactics, and there's various strategies that folks are using to stay in power. That's the
that's the end goal. Stay in power, and that's why.
So we're gonna start a whole war and risk nuclear war just to stay in power per se. You know, yes, it's true and not true. But I want to go back to your last point that you had made.
The Iranian war is more about China really than it is Iran in particular.
Well, no, I would say China comes into play, but it's China, Russia, it was BRICS, it was a number of things that came into play. But just to your point is, my point is not how you were making the Afro, like, I have all the answers, right? Because if you notice that what I go by, I don't go by Professor X, I don't go by Master X, I don't go by Allah X, I go by Student X. You see what I'm saying? Yes, so I'm constantly a student. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly taking in information. You know what I mean? So I don't pretend like I got all the facts and knowledge. And just to your point, also, to even when you're talking about from a national standpoint, the nation was promoting, as many organizations have nationalism, but we're not talking about establishing a religious state. Now, the masses of our people collectively came together and said, do that.
When you say nation, do you mean the Nation of Islam?
Yeah. I was addressing his earlier point to, like, even with the nation.
When you say that, you kind of need to distinguish. You should distinguish. That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying. When you say that, you got to distinguish it.
Yeah. The Nation of Islam was not and is not promoting a religious state where it's the leadership. When you look at the language used in the nation, they're saying that, look, we have to massively, as Black people, so-called. I mean, but when I say Black people, not just what you and me might consider Black, but like, this brown skin get you into that. You know what I mean? And so come together and collectively decide in terms of what we have, what we do. You see what I'm saying?
I would say Farrakhan has taken strides in that way. That was not the traditional nation way since the 1930s. No, when they say a nation of Islam, they really mean a nation of Muslims. That's the original goal. Farrakhan, that philosophy is still on print in their documentation.
Okay.
In
so
practice,
I agree. In the past, more like that versus now. Just so I agree. With that stipulation, but today, but like I said, but going back to again where we're at right now, today, on this the SAFE Act, and then what's being going on with this Trump administration is he has to hold on to power just like Netanyahu has to hold on to power, because they're likely to go to jail if they get out of power.
That's what makes it extremely important. That's what makes it not something that we're overlooking. That literally staying in power is the most crucial thing to his plans playing out. And just because first of all, January 6th can happen to him. You know what I'm saying? He can't just go too crazy as to some point where JD Vance goes, you know what? I can basically I'll just turn on this fool and I forget what the provision is when the dude's just squirrely and nutty and stuff like that, and basically completely pivot. I mean, the bottom line is there can be all type of power coups within that system. Yeah. So I'm just saying that the bottom line is it is a grasp for power to be able to do the things that he wants to do. Where I'm not diminishing what's going on with Iran. I said before, many episodes before, I said to me, that was the thing. That I felt like that the crux is the power, because without the power, he can't do too much. At some point, people will stop. They will not basically. What was that? An illegal order? What was the situation, Mr. Floyd X, about? That they don't have to accept.
Don't have to obey an illegal order.
Yeah, when he completely goes off the hinges, they do not have to follow him. He can basically run out there and look behind him and realize ain't nobody running behind him.
He said that in his cabinet meeting he just had. He said, if I did what I wanted to do, that would get me out of here. These people right here. At least he was alluding to that. I don't know if he was serious or joking, but he said that would get me out of here because they have the power if they all turn against him. Because right now he's holding on to what little he got for whatever reason, doing whatever he's doing.
Let's transition into Iran. I think that was kind of a natural transition.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's talk about it. Let's go. Hey,
You want update is the Houthis jumped in. who are the Houthis?
Bro, the Ansar Allah, the official real government of Yemen, of course they were going to jump in, and guess who else is going to jump in? The whole entire world has to be drawn into this situation, because again, the leverage that Iran has is that, for people that don't understand, is that, again, they've been playing this for a long time. They have dug themselves in to withstand multiple nuclear blasts. That's literally was in their game plan. That they're like, look, man, the only way these cats think they're gonna have a chance to even destroy us is they're gonna have to nuke the hell out of us, and then let's see what the world does after that. In fact, all our governments already have a plan in place that say, that, hey, there's an event to where global thermonuclear war happens. We're all going to build ourselves underground cities so we can endure, and then come out when it's safe. So it's here in America, it's here in Russia. Russia, to their credit, they built, some centers to help their population, some of their population to survive such a blast. You know what I mean? But America, we there's nothing like that here for us. You know what I mean? Iran, the Ayatollah said that, look, because the people can't go into underground bunkers, I'm not going to go in the underground bunker. So he just died like a man, and stood on his 2 feet instead of got on his knees like a coward. I think Tupac said that in the song. You know what I mean? Yes, sir.
Do anybody here believes that America is truly in talks with Iran right now? Are they negotiating right now?
So yes, and no. So if you remember when Trump came out and said that, look, every time they talk to negotiators, they get killed. Well, they weren't talking about, Iran killing them. They're talking about Israel killing them. Like, we already know Israel is not an ally to America, you know what I mean? And there's something that a lot of people don't understand fully, So there have been some backdoor type of conversations and whatnot, trying to get things done. But in terms of officially, look, Iran has their orders. They are going to keep going until there's a real substantial situation that comes to the table, and it's going to have to be all initiated, from the West. They're going to not only have to stop.
Let me hear Brother Afro's reply to that question. Are they really in negotiations, brother?
I would think, all the time. I think even when people are at war, there are people communicating all the time. I think that's just an ongoing reality. But I agree with Stu next. I don't think any significant negotiations are being made. Just maybe just some type of.
They put their
communication.
Go ahead.
I'm saying they put their positions out there. Like Iran's said, look, this is what we want for North to stop. And the United States has said, this is what we want for it to stop. That is a form of negotiation. They were negotiating before this played out, and these demands. So I'm just saying that everybody knows what their demands are, but really what's going to come down is probably not. At some point someone's going to have to concede an L. There's really no, you know what I'm saying? I don't understand how you save face in all of this stuff. At some point, go ahead. What were you about to say?
When as far as the regime change. Initially, that's what Trump was talking. We're going to do a regime change. And then this silly lady, the spokesperson, it was a regime change. If you kill them, all the leaders, isn't that a regime change, right? This silly witch said that in the press meeting. And people
nice to believe that too.
So you
I said no. Again, I didn't. I said by definition. I said if you say that you don't like the way these people are negotiating, and you kill those people, and you bring somebody else in, now you're negotiating with somebody else. I said I said, it's one thing to say to topple some infrastructure. I said, but when you replace the people, you're dealing with different people now. So again, they were saying that we're not going to do no regime change. It depends what the definition of it. I said, look, you got to define it. What's the definition of it? If that doesn't meet your definition of it, it doesn't meet your definition of it. But if you basically swap out all of these people with other people, how is it not fundamentally a change, at least the personnel that you're dealing with? Correct?
Because the order of things, that at least the person, I get that, but at least the order of things, I don't think is going to change. It's not going to be like all of a sudden, okay.
Yeah, you made it worse. You made it worse. Yeah. Before you had someone who didn't want a nuclear war, now or nuclear weapons. Now you're making the argument for getting nuclear weapons. So now you basically got the son, the disgruntled son of the father that you killed, in place. You're not going to be dealing with a negotiation. You're not going to be dealing with a friendlier negotiator. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's why they kept saying, we don't want to do a regime change. We don't want to do what Obama did with Libya, but, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? It's just,
So the dilemma is this, is that Iran only wants to, and it makes sense, deal with the United States, and they don't want to have a Trump deal. They want to have a treaty, an international treaty, because they want to keep getting bombed over and over again. They want this to be done, so they grow, this to be rested, and it's finished. But the problem is that even though America is so-called the stronger party, for some reason, Israel has all this influence to where they're rogue. They can do what the hell they want. And for some reason, Trump and the United States can't stop them and slow them down. So they keep escalating the situation greater and greater, drawing America deeper into the situation. You know what I mean? So that's what the dilemma is. You know what I mean? So
you think Trump can't stop him? You think Trump can't
he
stop
hasn't, and he's not. Right now when he's talking about negotiators, Israel has killed the negotiators twice, bruh, in the negotiations. You know what I mean? Twice.
Let me play
a video.
This is a change in the regime.
What makes you trust them?
I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them?
And why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal.
He sounds like a fucking idiot, dude. Trump is a fucking idiot.
When I talk to my middle school students, man, this is like the type of dialogue that he's having. It's similar. But I just want to say really quick, man. The United States was the first country to create an atomic bomb, the only country to use an atomic bomb, and the closest we've gotten to a nuclear war was the Cuban Missile Crisis, hands down. But I think it's wrong to say that this war started on February the 28th. This war started in 1953, and really after World War II. The United States has been boots on the ground in Iran in 1942, before the establishment of Israel in 1948. The United States was a superpower. Now you have other contending superpowers. The United States wants to be a unilateral superpower. That's what they pursue. You cannot do that without controlling the Middle East. I repeat, you cannot do that without controlling the Middle East. And the reason we should understand that the United States has been at war with Iran is not hyperbole or anything like that, but sanctions, embargoes are acts of war. And they've had that on Iran since 1979. So what we see now is just an escalation of that, what we're seeing in Cuba. As Martin Luther King said, the United States is the biggest purveyor of violence on the planet Earth. And that's before and after Israel. I mean, Israel does have its own mind, can go its own way, and sometimes has to be harnessed in. But what Trump can do, what the Congress can do, is stop giving Israel money. They give them $3 billion every year. They can stop that.
There was an incident where Israel bombed something, and Trump was like, whoa. They did this. We didn't sanction that. We told them to stop. They're going to stop. We're going to talk whatever. I don't remember what the particulars are. But I'm saying that's an example of basically, him at least, exercising some type of control. Because they do understand that the United States just says, F you, Israel is super screwed. So I'm just saying that, we understand that he's being manipulated. But at some point, you know what I'm saying, he may be compelled to basically cut the umbilical cord there. And this is a Netanyahu thing. For whatever reason, they got this crazy bromance going on between them. And I mean, it's been a big part of all of it.
Steve, what they say, thick as thieves, they both criminals, they love each other.
Nah, brother, this is gonna be on two individuals. That's why you guys gotta quit. It's not about two individuals. Like brother says, this thing's been going on for a long time. Arguably, it started before then. Afro, you know, I mean, I'm sure you could make an argument, you know, for that. But let's get into the current reality where we're at right now, and that is that the U.S. and Israel are losing this war decisively. We're going to start right there. Yes, they have lots of explosions and things that go boom, but they're not retarding, they're not regrading or diminishing Iran's capacity to wage war at all. You know, and nothing of military significance has been destroyed in Iran. You know what I mean? That's like the reality that we're dealing with. This thing is nowhere close to being ended. And that isn't, again, where the problem for the world is that means greater suffering for the world is in order. You know, we're not talking about just a local recession, you know, and ultimately a depression. We're going to talk about a global recession and depression. And that's if we're not talking about global nuclear war. Again, Iran has facilities over 120 different mountains. Iran is a big, gigantic country. You know, they have built underground cities, if you will, to where I guarantee you right now, arguably, I said they should have did it before, but I guarantee right now that not only are they developing, if they have not achieved creating a nuclear, you know, a weapon, they're loading them on warheads right now. And then the real question is going to be how they introduce it to the world. You know, is it going to be an underground test, or is it going to be, you know, after they're hit and then, you know, and then they hit? You know what I mean? So, you know, that's what my concern is.
How are you going to say America is losing when they are sending 20,000 soldiers to a country that has 90 million people? How you saying we losing?
So I know you're saying that facetiously.
I think it's clear.
Again, no plan, no real significant plan or strategy. You know, and then
it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath.
This whole situation is about the Strait. Everything about this thing that's still going on. It's not even about the nuclear, whatever, you know, because that was the thing that was supposed to be to keep them from developing a nuclear weapon. You know, this real conflict is really all about the Strait that United States just has no control over. Israel has all Iran has all the cards over there. That's the power. That's the strength. They cannot win this war. You know what I'm saying? This war cannot be won in the eyes of popularity. You know what I'm saying? You cannot propaganda this into a win. This is going to be an L in actuality, and it's going to be an L in popularity. You know what I'm saying?
There's no
path to victory.
Because from this day forward, they're going to charge $1 million a ship to pass through the Strait.
$2 million.
They winning. They winning.
But it's, you know,
you can't control the Strait. This is about the Strait.
We have to make sure that we pick up protests here, just like we did with Vietnam, because this is, you know, it's going to turn out to be another Vietnam, and it's, you know, taking massive resources that can be used.
No King's Day.
No King's Day can be used to help people to improve conditions here, are going to bomb a brown country, and also, you know, try to create a situation where they have global domination, because 80 to 90% because of the sanctions, Iran exports were to China. So that was their number one trade partner. And, you know, they want to weaken China. That's, you know, the broader strategy too.
Yeah. And for all of you that are worried, who don't have hope, for all of y'all that don't have hope, when Student X was talking about Trump's control of the Supreme Court, which is true. It's a reality. He does have undue influence over them, but they have shown to buck back when things get to a point of intense fallout. So I'm just saying that, you know, I would suspect that the Supreme Court, you know, would probably make the hard decision to basically buck Trump if he tried to go too off the hinges. Because at the end of the day,
brother, let me ask you a question. If you believe that, then who the hell is going to want to inherit this war by the time we get there, if we get there? You know, you see what I'm saying? You know, who don't want to inherit
it? It'll be dismantled. It'll be like Biden pulling out of Afghanistan. You take all the L you want, just stop, done. Basically, what he was saying that was going to happen with Ukraine would absolutely happen with respect to this. I mean, whoever he's already said that. Look, Pete Hegseth was the guy that even came up with this idea. He was just like, hey, yeah, let's go do it. And he's like, okay.
No, he threw him under the bus. I was like,
he's already passing the buck. So it can't be one.
I don't think they go commit any boots to ground, are they? They're not going to commit any boots to ground anytime soon.
I hope not.
It'll be a mutiny. It'll be a mutiny.
They do it before elections. I mean, if they do at any point in time to this, then it's going to be mass casualties. Let me say that. For so many strategic reasons, this people are higher qualified than me because I can break it down to you. But it would be a bloodbath. For sure. Mainly because there's no places to where you can mass troop. You can mass the troops. That's within the ballistic missile range. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere, most places have been destroyed, and anywhere else that you can get close to the mass troops is going to get hit with ballistic missile. You know what I mean? So there's none of that. They're going nuclear. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. That's what you don't understand is the decision has already been made. This war is not going nowhere near like they have planned at all. Period. You know what I mean? So the only other option they have is to go nuclear, thinking that's going to change something, and it's not
because the meritocracy. Because they put all them brilliant military minds in there.
Bro,
and took all the people that understand logistics.
It's way bigger than that. There's way bigger than that because, like I said, we were headed in this direction, regardless who was in office. Like I said, knowing everything I know now, I wouldn't change anything I did politically, from the vote perspective, because the only thing that we did was delay being at this moment right now. We were already at this moment. In fact, to a degree, it was worse because you misspoke earlier, Afro, because in the last 2 years of the Biden Kamala administration, there was not even backdoor communication with Russia as we were rapidly approaching to nuclear war. Not even backdoor communication. There was no communication, zero. You see what I'm saying? At all. Now on this one, there is a channel, that does exist, and it's been leaked in the media. I best believe that your peoples over in Israel, that they looking, to see who they can blow up next, type of deal. But it's going down. So right now I'm just saying there's only worse to come. We're only getting started with this. So the whole thing becomes, okay, well, how do you endure this? How do you get past this? Because I don't think we're making it to elections. I think at best we have a month, to things really start hitting the fan. You already see Southern California. How much is your gas down there right now? At least $7. I was down there.
Man. I think you owe it too, man. Because it's
headed that way. I mean, whether it's today or tomorrow, it's headed that way. Right now, if this war were to start right now and nothing else happened, the grass is still going to go up. Supplies are going to still go up because of how much infrastructure has been destroyed. And it's going to take years to recover from that. And they're not even done blowing up stuff. Right now, Americans and Israel, they don't even have really any targets to really aim for. So they're just turning to civilian infrastructure now. Terrorizing the people. Because, again, Iran, the government, and the people waging this war or trying to endure this war, they are entrenched. They were prepared to deal with this. There is no regime change.
Brother Afro, I want to ask you, how does this war ties into the Cuba blackout?
How does it tie into the Cuba blackout?
Are they connected? Are they connected at all?
Absolutely. China was a big trade partner with Cuba as well. I think Iran, and China,
Russia,
Brother Next said, and Russia are part of BRICS and other nations. But, and Cuba is a big symbol of resistance to, United States. That's why when y'all say America, it irks me, man, because they
just say United States.
Yeah, United States.
Okay.
This is how they project their hegemony, by when you think about the Americas, there's only one country that's of importance. And
that's why I feel about anti-Semitism.
So okay. So
that's how I feel about
like back in the day, we used to say instead of saying a team was playing Chicago, we would say playing Jordan because Jordan was just that prominent. You know, it was not you're not even playing the team, you playing Jordan. So that's kind of like what that is like. But this speak on the Cuba thing. You know, they want to beat up on Cuba. It's another little tactic in their China strategy. Cuba again is an example, and United States has been in war with Cuba since 1961 when they enacted sanctions on Cuba and try to strangulate them. They're doing the same thing right now with the oil blockade, which is supposed to be off limits. That's a humanitarian crisis that they're causing in Cuba. You know, people in hospitals, kids don't have proper lighting at home. You know, it affects the entire country beyond your disagreement with the way they do politics on their island. After you've invaded the island, you've been on the island territorially invaded in 1898. You invaded again in 1912. You put in a puppet government that Castro overthrew in 1959. So, you know, I've been to Cuba, and I can tell you, and in Latin America as well, when I speak Spanish, they think of me as a Cubano because it's heavily black populated. But I can go on and on with that. I'm done. I can go talk about Cuba all day. I get excited about Cuba.
Real quick. Yeah. So the other way is that.
Go ahead, brother.
Sorry, I got off track. My bad.
Go ahead, student.
No, you were on track. Go ahead, student.
No, bro, you was on there, bro. I would say you was on there. You know, and I want to bring up the fact. So, how you feel about when I say or we say America? You know, the way you feel about that term is probably real similar to how I feel about the term black and nigga. You know what I mean? You know, honestly, you know what I mean? But going back over here to this Cuba, situation is that the reason why it impacts it is because if you look at where this is going, and I was saying this even before, we even got here, before elections, is that the U.S. wants to retreat to the Western Hemisphere. That was what Trump's whole strategy was about. So remove ourselves out of the everywhere else and come more in this hemisphere and lock this down. And so they're taking over and colonizing Canada for the resources they have, which are a lot. Is there something that I see America or this United States government, doing? Mexico, they're going to take Mexico and they're going to use them for labor when it comes to like Greenland, Latin America, Cuba, Venezuela. These are like the trade barriers, dealing with the merchants to ensure your supply networks, so. Bro, I'm trying to tell you, this is a lot of us don't fully comprehend and understand the strategy, but this is thought out. You know what I mean? It really is thought out. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it's not to our benefit, the masses of the people's benefit. But they had a plan.
Let me put this question out here: if the government of Cuba falls to America, will that be a benefit or detriment to the people of Cuba?
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
It would be a great detriment to the people of Cuba. The United States government since 1898 has sought to suppress the self-determination of the Cuban people. That's been the whole goal. That's why they were there, and that's why Castro nationalized everything and kicked the United States out. And that's what created Little Havana in Florida, and that's actually what created Las Vegas.
Why are there so many Cubans in Florida who wants to see that regime fall in Cuba? They every day they out there protesting, fighting. We got to get them out. We got to save the people of Cuba. Why is
who are those people, Afro?
Because many of those people had ties with Fulgencio Baptista, and they had property that they owned. Foreigners owned a lot of property in Cuba at that time, and they were invested with the ruling class, the comprador class in Cuba. So
they had a name for them. Were you familiar with the name they called them?
I forgot the name.
Cubans.
Okay. The right wingers.
Never heard that term.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean,
I didn't make the term up. Let me say that for the record. Not my word, not my term I came up with, but that's the terminology that they use.
And there's a racist way that word is used in Cuba too. Anyway, but so yeah, that was that group that lost.
Isn't that the lighter skinned people in Cuba who were in power and had a lot of wealth and well-being, you know, and that and
also
that allowed the mafia and everyone to come over there and have sex with our women and the whole wasn't that okay?
And Bugsy Siegel, that was a real life thing. They were a part of that. You know, you captured some of that in the movie Scarface a little bit. He was a gangster from Cuba.
All right. So, what's your take, Mr. Nice Guy, Cuba? What's your take?
Hey, how's United States treating Puerto Rico?
Yeah, that's it.
Good point.
I mean, you know, you want to basically control this territory. You want to give them rights. You want to make them you want to do what you're saying that you want to do for Denmark. You know, for Greenland. You want to for Canada, whatever you want. You know, what I'm saying you're very particular about how you want to give state rights to. So, to me, being a United States territory, what is it cracked up to be? You know, ask the Philippines. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, there's a reason why they resisted and became their own thing. So, you know, unless you're going to make them a state and give them all the rights of a state, there's nothing that you know, to me, you don't have respect for them or those people.
And I think the Cuban people are doing better. They've had, I don't know if it was, I know at one time they had a higher rate of literacy. They produce more doctors per proportion of the population. They got 600,000 doctors across the world. I was almost about to be a part of their program, their pre-med thing, because I had the pre-med stuff. You know, they've been an ally and supporter. Huh?
The Nation of Islam promoted that. That if you want to be a doctor,
a lot of people following.
Yep.
You go to Cuba. The only thing you have to commit is that you was gonna go out and help poor, or go back to your community or help poor communities once you become a doctor. That was the only thing you had to qualify. For how many years?
For a couple years.
To qualify to go into their doctorate program. That's amazing. Man.
You had to learn Spanish. You had to learn Spanish because a lot of the instruction was in Spanish, you know. So
well, I know some people who went and didn't
know
any Spanish, but you know what I'm saying? But they learned a little bit as they were there. But and then also it's been a friend and ally to the Black liberation movements all around the world. That's why when Nelson Mandela got out, one of the first persons he wanted to meet up with was Castro, because South Africa tried to expand to Namibia, but the Cuban government gave military support to Namibia and beat the South African government back. So they would have even been bigger territorially than they were. You know, at that time, they gave political exile at Sada Shakur, Nehana Obadoon, Robert F. Williams, you know, Negroes with Guns. I mean, they've been a big support. But there is racism in Cuba, though. I just want to say that there is racism in Cuba.
Hey, Walk, I want to put your comment up there, but I think that's too disrespectful, dude. It's too disrespectful.
Oh.
And they still control their little stuff like Guantanamo Bay. They won't let that go. But anyway, yeah.
All right.
The last thing I would say, brother, you know, just real quick, just to to wrap up, a point is that, you know, I remember in I think it was one of the recent DC flicks at the very end, you know, after Superman, you know, had got beaten up, you know, real bad. You know, at the very end, Lex Luthor had made a comment, you know, in reference, you know, to, you know, the fact that Superman seemed, you know, that he wasn't invincible. And he said the bell has already been rung and they've heard it out there in the dark among the stars. That bell cannot be unrung. The people have saw now that the United States is not invincible. We are now in the world officially to where it's not a polarity that exists. We're in a multipolar world now, and that is a world that the American, the psyche, the people who are in power, that they can't live in. You know, so you know if you can't beat them, you know what I mean. Like every villain movie that we see, they just seek to destroy everybody. You know, so you know I'm telling you, the fall of America is not only imminent, you know, but you know we're looking at something greater here. So I can't stress enough in terms of prepare.
Let me say this.
So you're saying because you're saying America can't take over the strait of whatever, you know, basically can't enforce its will on a location way outside of their geography, that this is like, you know, a crippling aspect of their power. I mean, at the end of the day, if the United States minds its business and defend itself, go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's analyze that. You know, so if we were going to look at, I would say no to answer your question, not just because, you know, they can't secure that strait. However, that strait, that was one of the few, points of entry, if you will, and where commerce flows to where there were no tolls that existed. And then when you study what comes out of that region, that whole entire area, you always hear about Africa and all its resources and whatnot. People forget that the Middle East is Africa. Essentially, when you start talking about these areas, you're talking about the continent, and so there's a lot of resources that come there from that area, from fertilizer. We know about the oil. There's so much. And so in terms of its impact on the global commerce and trade, it is so significant, in particular, since Iran, they didn't close the strait. We keep missing that point. They closed it to America, Israel, and her allies.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So the strait is open, So this country is in definitely, economically harmed. And then you'll notice
open for who Iran allows it to be open to.
Yeah,
exactly.
But again, when you're talking about the power of this country, I'm saying if you want to talk about economic, all of these policies are going to affect us economically. His dumb tariff policies are going to affect us economically. But when you're talking about the power, I'm just saying that I don't see how this makes you weaker from the standpoint of being the nuclear superpower that you are. This is just basically reminding you the logistics that you never had the power to compete on that level to impact that situation.
Bro, Americans are just so uninformed. So already, a lot of Americans don't realize that China has already cut off America to the most critical resources, the natural resources that you need to make much of the weapons that America needs to defend herself with, both offensive as well, but in particular defensive capabilities. So nations are already been shutting this country off and shutting it down. When you start adding now into how controlling that strait, how it impacts, again, the whole China question, it impacts China because that it has an impact on to how Taiwan is able to be defended and accessed by America as well. So there's a lot of geopolitical issues that come about this area. The reason why, and you say it all the time, that Israel and how important the Middle East was important because of, again, the access to these trade routes, the resources, and the fact that the Greater Israel project was all about expansion of Israel to take a lot of these territories, with her neighbors, and why she's at war. And Iran was the only power that was able to neutralize and slow down, that effort, on behalf of Israel and the United States. And so it's critically important. And now they're like a rock in the way that it seemingly cannot be removed. And so then now they have to go to more extreme measures to try to remove it. And they already are in legal and political hot water due to the illegal nature of this situation. So now they're dug in so deep. It's like, well, damn, it's like that dude that would go in the hood, rob a bank, maybe accidentally shoot somebody, in that purpose, but there's a witness there and they had to look at each other and be like, damn, should we leave the witness alive? You know what I'm saying? And they end up clapping the witness too. You know what I'm saying? We're in a situation right now. I say we because we're stuck, in the world, right, with all these madmen and crazy people, as now we're in this situation to where, bro, if you just play this out from a game theory standpoint, like, those of us that play chess, we're always thinking about multiple moves ahead, all the time. So, when you start just playing this out, bro, there is no good outcome here. You know what I'm saying? Everything is bad. It's just a matter of just how bad is it going to be? How much pain?
None of that is what I was talking about. I agree with you. It's a complete shitstorm, and it was the shitstorm before. It was a predictable shitstorm. Only he was fooled. He kept saying nobody knew that this was going to happen. Nobody knew that this was going to play out. Everybody knew it. We talked about it on the show. They literally said, if you do this, we're going to do that. So
standing order. They said, if this happened, this is what we're going to do. Everybody
They had a plan, and their plan is not working. They thought they could neutralize all this, shut it down. They thought they had people inside the government and all, like I said, I know Afro don't like it, but in the Quran, it says the enemy plans, but Allah plans, and he's the best of planners. They had a plan, but then their plan is not working. And like I said, because their plan is not working and failing so drastically, that leaves a real narrow set of options that they have on the table now to try to change their fortunes. And that option is nuclear weapons. It's not just any type of nuclear weapon, because they know 1 or 2 is not going to happen. They have to literally bombard this country with nuclear weapons. And so then will China, will Iran, will North Korea, or will these other nations stand by and allow that? You know what I mean? And if they don't, then what happens? You know what I mean? And that's where, I say just prepare.
Go ahead, Brother Afro. The floor is yours.
No, I mean, it's a lot to process and think about. I don't know, what the folks in power, their overall strategy. I'm not clear, but I'm just, learning more and more. But I will say folks can send remittance to friends and family in Cuba. And, everyone knows somebody that knows someone who frequents Cuba or knows people down there. And there are organizations who are involved in delivering medical supplies and, basic foods and goods. So just connect with those organizations. But yeah, that was a lot of info.
I want to end it on this. I want to say to all of you people out there, all of the U.S. citizens, I'm gonna correct myself on the America term. I appreciate that. To all of you U.S. citizens who are out here saying, yeah, let's go in there and destroy and blow up Iran. Let's hurry up, take them out already. It's not an easy task. You have to take into consideration the numbers. And when you're on these news channels, listen to the war experts, the people that take other things into consideration. This is not a video game. This is not Fortnite. They ain't going to run up there with rifles, shooting and killing targets and getting points. They're going to be slaughtered. It's going to be people that they put IEDs, all them things, and blowing up people. People will be coming back with one leg and all this other stuff. And you have to, if he's sending 20,000 plus troops, 35 to 40% of them are auxiliary. That means they're medics. They are the admin. So they're not even on the battlefield. It's some that's just there to help out for the troops that's coming back injured and having to do all other stuff. Build the ones that got to build up the camp. They got electricians. It's so much into it that it's not manageable, really. Why do you think that America was in Iraq for 20 plus years? Since 9/11, America was in Iraq for like 20 years. Doing what? And it still looked like a loss. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did America win or lose that war?
They lost, brother. Lost from a military.
They always changing the goalposts. Yeah, they changed the goalposts as far as why they were there. But they lost in Afghanistan. They lost in Vietnam. They lost in Korea. General MacArthur said, the white man will never win a war after World War II. Will never win after Japan. Will never win a war in Asia. That was his assessment, and I think that turns out to be true.
So it's the nature of a fortress of basically infrastructure. It's why I've always argued that there's no way that aliens coming over here and take over the planet, because the resources that they would have to bring, you understand? All the resources are here. We have all these resources here. The resources that they would have to bring and transport over great distance, they wouldn't have the infrastructure, whatever. So it's the nature of something that's a stronghold that's established. You just bring
ET, bring it on,
yeah,
ET.
It just wouldn't work. So so again, really, if Trump tries to put troops on the ground, and you got a lot of predictions, Student X. My prediction is that JD Vance will probably 25th him.
Ooh, 25th.
At some point, they're going to be like, we're going to turn it.
JD Vance is not popular. Everyone in his administration looks so weak.
It doesn't matter. All you have to do is say, Iran, this dude is crazy. He's a war criminal. We will indict him and send him over to you to do whatever you want to do with it. I'm not saying they're going to go that far, but I'm just saying that the bottom line is he can only take this so far before. I mean, people have already fled the ship. He's not in control of MAGA, and at some point, they'll just cut their losses.
I wish we had time to get to the Drewski, Erica Kirk stuff, because I agree. I want to go back real quick.
Going to do it. I was going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
We're going to go to 11. Before I can say one last thing on this point, real quick.
Let me say this right quick. Student, go. Let me just say this. Student X, I agree with you. A few weeks ago, you said Charlie Kirk was the first victim of first casualty of the Iran war.
And that Candace said it for the record.
She said it. Okay,
yeah.
I agree with that statement. It's true because I feel like turning point. I watched Candace Owens and I pay attention to what's going on. And he talked about somebody was saying that when he was in the White House and he was asking J.D. Vance or somebody to prevent this war from going on. This is true. Yeah, yep, Joe Kemp, exactly. You're right. So I mean, it's crazy, but it's sad and it's a reality. And I really want to stress to the American people, man, don't be so pro-war thinking that, oh, we're a mighty nation. We're just gonna go in there and tear shit up. Only thing we're gonna get is soldiers coming back in body bags and Donald Trump standing there with his dumb ass with a baseball cap on, acting like he's legitimate. That's all we're gonna get from this war. And the rich people gonna benefit. Go ahead.
Who's proposing? Who? I mean, it seems so wildly unpopular. Who, you know what I'm saying? Who would you have to even convince of that? I think that everybody's like, what the hell are we doing there?
No, it's not everybody, bro. You think MAGA believes in Iran? We have 20 to 33% of the people, so a quarter to a third, that are pro this action, and pro Trump and pro what's taking place right now. So that's still too much. And then you have the
and you know why those people are basically religiously aligned to him. There's no logic that's going to shake them away from that. At the end of the day,
but I'm saying there are those there, and then again, like to the aliens point that you made earlier, is that the aliens recognize something, because they'd be advanced, right? We're talking hypothetical, I guess, right now. Is that aliens will realize what Hebrews and Brisky had noticed is that it will be easier to control the world, than it would be to kill all of them. You know what I'm saying? Type of deal. And so, so they wouldn't come over here like that. They would hide among us, and then hell, maybe it's not the Jews who's the aliens. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? But and
we're being funny about that. We're being funny about that. We're not really confusing the Jews.
The Jews.
I'm definitely being funny. And then the last point I would make is that I got to quote my brother Michael Franti, man. He said that we can bomb the world to pieces, but we can't bomb it into peace.
Oh, I get that. That's like I remember Jesse Jackson said that at Tookie Williams' funeral. We got to kill the idea of killing to stop killing. Talking about the death penalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Are
you talking about that Drewski thing, man? Because I thought, let's talk about it. When I first saw it, I was like, damn, man, Erica put on some weight. She must be stressing out.
It did look like it. It did.
And then I saw that it was a whole skit by Drewski and whatnot and everything. I was like, man, that's comedy. But I already knew that, and maybe, rightfully so, that there were going to be some people mad saying that, look, if we got in blackface, y'all be mad. But granted, when they got in blackface, it wasn't like Tropical Thunder, Morton Downey Jr. style. It was usually some buffoonery and clownery, you know what I mean, and much different, but it was funny.
Yeah. What's your take on it, nice guy?
That's the key. You got to understand, blackface is different. It's just not an issue of basically I'm being one race and I'm going to be basically portraying another race. That's not fundamentally what blackface was. Blackface was literally like the only way that you were going to see people of color on white mediums, and they particularly wanted to create a narrative how all black people were. You know what I'm saying? So it was an act of war. It's a completely different thing than basically someone just pretending to be somebody. Because I mean, again, that Tropical Thunder, I believe that's what it was called. I'm gonna just tell you now, that's one of the greatest movies of all time. And Robert Downey Jr.'s role is one of the greatest roles that he ever played. I mean, he played a dude.
I didn't watch it for the record. But I remember you were in.
I'm just telling you, he was an actor that basically got surgery to play a role, and that he was basically method acting in cotton nets. And I'm just saying that it was brilliant. And I mean, it's a big distinguish when you talk about the the stuff that, you know, when we talk about blackface, I mean, you know, I'm just saying it, you know, it's a different, completely different dynamic. So I can understand if a person feels like, look, we can't let this be the only representation of us, and that's why you have an issue or something like that. But it's one thing for someone to just basically, you know, throw a pebble onto the beach. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's in context. This is just one example. And what he did, you know, it was hilarious. But I mean, you know, it's just not the same. That's at the end of the day, it's not the same.
I just want to say, me watching that shit, I appreciate it because it brought awareness to me. Like, I didn't know that Erica Kirk came out to the fireworks at her ceremony for her husband. I was like, is that real? And I saw the actual video. She came out to pyrotechnics for the funeral service or the celebration of his life or whatever. And I'm like, this is something ain't right with Erica Kirk. I agree.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
you know how I feel about it, bro. Yeah. I think, again, it's one of the that's why I keep saying the Iran situation, a war, that this is the crux. When you go back all the way back into the 90s when George Bush Jr. and all of them, or early 2000, when they did the 9/11, the whole plan of the neocons was ultimately Iran was the final piece that needed to fall. Okay. That was the final piece that needed to fall. We're here now. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So it's like they launched a plan, bro, like 40 years ago, at least, you know, and here we are, and people are trying to act like this isn't, like, you know what I mean, significant. You know what I mean, bro? This is significant. This is as significant as it gets. You know what I mean? We're here right now, and like going back to get to the Charlie, Kirk, situation. The only thing I wish she did more of was highlight the fact that when I say she's the worst widow ever, like some of those points, you know, that Candace has been, highlighting. If it was just, if they leaned more into that to bring people to awareness of this, because once you understand that Charlie Kirk was without doubt assassinated, not by who they got right now, who still to date has not even gone through the most critical part of a hearing, which is a process, which is to state whether you're innocent or guilty. He hasn't been arraigned. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? And then now you got Joe Kent coming out, who was a top level official. You know what I mean? Who's telling you that they just completely shut down the whole investigation altogether. Even people in the administration asking questions, you know what I mean, or getting shunned. My God, what does it take to wake you up? You know
I want to say it again. Trump knew it would be difficult to execute this war if Charlie Kirk was alive. And I'm not saying he's no hero, no martyr. He just had a large ass following. A large following. Israel knew it too. He had a large ass following. I don't care what you think about him. He had a large following of white young males. And they know that in this country, that's a large majority of the population. He had a large following. He could not live and be here right now going against Trump.
Yeah, I just, first of all, I'm not okay with attacking the widow of some politician or whatever and stuff like that. I look at him as like a soldier for their cause, and she's just like, I'm not going to tell her how to grieve or how to act or anything like that. I'm definitely not in the Erica Kirk bashing business. The only thing that I take issue with her is being appointed, whatever politically thing that he appointed her, would have no type of, stripes or anything to be that. Outside of that, at the end of the day, that's a wife, that's a mother who's lost a husband, who's lost a family's lost a father. I am not about to be bashing Erica Kirk.
Nice guy. You know
what I mean?
Nice guy.
That's what she was, bro. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Let me ask you this. Nice guy. If I told you that she participated in a CIA training video before she even met Charlie Kirk, would that change anything in your head?
Which does she know about it? Does she understand what's going on and all this other stuff? I mean, she
participated. She was an actor in the.
Yeah, I know, but again, was she just someone that they basically just like recruited? She didn't know what she was being a part of. I mean, there's so many questions I need to ask to be able to properly answer that, because the CIA is going to manipulate a lot of people, but the CIA is going to necessarily reveal their hand to all the little pieces that they manipulate. So I don't know what her role is. I don't know how knowledgeable she was with it. And at the end of the day, as far as Charlie Kirk, I don't know how much he would have protested.
We don't even need to know all that.
Whatever. Well, I think it's relevant. Of course you do.
No,
it's
relevant. First of all, we can never know everything, and there's such a thing called informed speculation, which is required oftentimes in criminal investigations. You got to be able to connect the dots. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? And that's what reveals you and takes you down the path, which is why, I love Candace's process, because we can't pretend like with Candace is that she has her shit that's being broadcasted live. You could go back, read the transcript, and then it's been being played out in a very interactive way. You know what I mean? And that's the brilliance of this whole thing. And so facts she's bringing to the table, information is bringing to the table. People are able to debate about it, talk about it, and it's being put in the public light. And so it's like where Candace was initially, she didn't start where she is now with regards to Erica. Neither did I. The last thing I was thinking is that this is where this went. But like I told you guys from the beginning, I was like, man, this is must-see TV, best show on TV, because we're watching like a real-life murder mystery play out, like a book club type of thing, and it's taking place where every time she tunes in, there's like 200,000 people signed on live. And by the time it's millions of people that's been watching.
This is the big murder mystery with a buffoon as a detective.
Nah, I disagree, bro. Her whole process shows she's not a buffoon, bro.
She's demonstrated her lack of investigative integrity with respect to the Kamala Harris thing with the birth certificate, her Google sleuthing and stuff like that. I'm just saying that maybe that was impressive to you, but I'm just saying that she has basically exposed herself. Brother Afro, you trying to come back in here?
He can't take it. He had this Candace, like he can't take it, man. He was like twitching. You know what I'm saying?
I'm waiting for him to pop up so we can bring him on. I want to hear his take.
I'm just saying. There we go. You hear what he's saying about Candace?
Hello?
Candace is the great investigator. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with Stu Next 100%. And when she comes on, it's a murder mystery. You know what I'm saying? There's no investigation. There's no real investigation. There's murder mystery, and that she's telling a story, and that's why she's getting that audience. It's almost a soap opera. She's always alluding to some great conspiracy. He's talking about connecting the dots, and the thing he said, something I can't remember, data, information, something, informed, something you said, but we had 3 jurisdictions of police investigators, like over 30 to 50 something investigators to conclude that Tyler Robertson, all this evidence that they've collected. How do you dismiss that and go with a murder mystery story that has very little support?
Afro. Yes. How do you account for the head of counterterrorism saying that he was denied access to everything? He said they shut it down. End the story. He was looking for the outside influence tied to that murder. Why would they not let him investigate?
I don't know why they would do that. And then how often is that done?
Theory.
No, I'm saying sometimes when there's technicalities, for instance, like if a state or a county has solved or they don't have any issue, they don't need federal monies being used to do extra oversight. They don't, what do you call redundant work? That I think that happens quite often because the city or whatever jurisdictions they've reached the conclusion there's no reason or evidence to go any further. So sometimes that can happen, but I don't understand why are you shaking your head? I don't get it. Lincoln Rockwell wasn't killed.
I get it completely, Afro agnostic, because you got to understand that some people in the space of information, they feel compelled to basically fill it with conspiracy. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes
the 3 jurisdictions investigated, it's over. Why even worry about it? It was
that's not. I don't think that's what he said. I think he was saying that
he said it was
you know,
three,
he said that.
Police.
No. I'm talking about why he was denied. I'm talking about why he was denied access. I'm talking about why he was denied access. Because there could be all. I'm just saying that when a person says, "Why do you think this is?" and the reason why I'm not inclined to give you is I have a very active imagination, and I can sit there and go, "Well, one of the reasons would be this. One of the reasons would be this. One of the reasons would I can play this game ad infinitum." But the bottom line is, where is this going to get me? I'm just saying I don't know. If you want to say that when you based on the information, it seems like this, I respect that. But you still have to say that it seems like that. That's not a slam dunk. That's not math. That's not science. That's basically your working theory based on the information that you have. But then again, it's still based on the information that you have. You're acting like we're getting this stuff straight from the horse's mouth. You know what I'm saying? We're getting a lot of second, third, fourth, fifth generation information to put together our incredible, theories about what's playing out. But I'm just saying that we're not working with the direct information. That's the reality. That's the reality.
End the show on that note.